taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast for July 22nd, 2020, Wednesday edition of the show. My name is Ash. I'm here, as always, with Cybsidian, and this is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. Lots of analysis, some predictions about what we're going to see at the Xbox show, and a fair bit of politics today. Light politics. I mean, we don't like getting political, and it's not going to be like seriously political stuff, but sometimes.
Do you know what the most amazing, entertaining topic to talk about is?
Clowns wearing monkey hats.
I don't actually know. If I knew, I think we'd be a lot more famous than we already are. But definitely, it's not politics.
Definitely not politics. Definitely not politics.
That's usually how I approach it. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
When politics invades the gaming space, though, we do have to talk about it sometimes. Mm-hmm. But we'll try to keep it light and just we're not going to be like talking about like election politics or anything about who to vote for, but just some stuff that is invading the gaming space that needs to talk about. So, Hello everybody from the Triple S Legion on our Discord server. Hey, are you on the Discord server? If not, you too can be part of the Legion. Just join the Discord server. Find the link in the description below. It's a fun place. It's a really positive place that a lot of people are enjoying. There is lots of awesome discussions happening, and yeah, we're working hard to keep it just a fun, positive place focused on escapism. So definitely check that out and join the madness that happens there. And of course, don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. I'm really off script today, and it's just throwing me off because I'm looking at a whole bunch of different things and trying to read chat, and it's like, what am I supposed to say next? What have I said? What haven't I said? I got a lot of energy.
Sorry about that.
I have an obscene amount of energy today.
I wanted to get that joke off while we were talking about politics. So
yeah, no, that's fine.
Because it's seriously, it really is like it's like, oh yeah, the thing that everybody loves talking about is like all the politics, just all the politics you got.
Everybody loves it. Yes. So we've actually got two political topics today. One being we have a statement from a CDPR dev about the nature of how the game is going to address politics, and we also have something going that just recently happened in the European Union. There was a report released about loot boxes, and this was a much broader scope than sort of the talks that we've been hearing out of the UK recently. This most recent one was by basically, it covers the entire EU, and it goes way beyond loot boxes. So we're going to talk about some of the juicy aspects of that. But first, the Xbox showcase is happening tomorrow. Xbox's summer event, Microsoft's summer event, I guess, but it's, of course, Xbox focused. Of course, even if you're not an Xbox gamer, there's going to be a lot for you as well, because a lot of Xbox games do come to PC. Not everything's going to be console exclusive, but in Microsoft especially, they're very cross-platform. They're about as focused on PC as they are on their own console these days. So there's going to be a lot for PC gamers as well as Xbox gamers, but also we're expecting to see something about Cyberpunk 2077. That's not a guarantee. We don't have any inside info, but there's just been some hints, just some things we've seen that make us think there's going to be something. Plus, somebody that I know who has inside info kind of maybe hinted at it. So, again, not a guarantee, but we're hoping to see something for Cyberpunk 2077. But regardless, there should be a lot of fun stuff there as well. We know we're going to see some info on Halo Infinite, which, one of the things we've been anticipating with this game, and you've been talking about for a while, Cyb, is that Halo, the new Halo is going to demonstrate some new AI tech that's going to blow us away, apparently.
Well, not necessarily AI tech, open world tech, which does rely quite a bit on AI, but it is a little bit of a different type of AI than what some people normally think or normally associate, like with AI. So I want to be clear. So like from what we've heard is they've implemented ways to make the world feel far more real and lived in and exciting, and it's like it's like playing Skyrim, but like way, way, way better and more advanced. That's what we're hearing. And that it's a living, breathing world that can be affected by things. That's basically all I've got. Is that this is tech that we haven't seen before. That it's truly amazing. It's really pushing the next gen of what an open world is, like a static open world that is just constantly always open and having things happen in it, but not necessarily like how much like in scripted areas and times and locations that you normally get kind of stuff that's kind of like it's just like you can assume that that's what of course that's what's gonna happen here or happen there. So the word is on the street that they've been really pushing this. This is brand new. They're really pushing the general concept of like breaking the mold on this open world stuff, because they know that open worlds have been really important. We can look at a lot of their recent games that they've been both working with and partnering with, and we can look at everything from Sea of Thieves to a couple of their other games. They really do have the experience. Now, how much of that translates over to this project, we don't know yet. We've been told many different things at many different points of time. And I also want to point out, I have been told in the past by devs and people, BioWare, how amazing their next open world project is going to be, and it's really going to blow your socks off. You have never seen anything like Anthem, and how amazing it's going to be.
That game did blow our socks off. I mean, for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blown away by how bad it was.
I don't really talk to these people anymore, because it's like you guys clearly drank the Kool-Aid on this one. You're clearly over the you've clearly done something that has like really wrecked your professional reputation. Like really is. I'm astounded, I'm shocked, and I'm horrified at the amount of like, oh yeah, it's going to be the greatest thing you've ever played. This is going to blow every open world you've ever played. It's just going to make it pale in comparison. I'm like, what game did they play? Like what were they developing? What did they think they were developing?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, this is not new, nor is this good.
No, and
so
yeah, at best it was an average open world with less than average gameplay. I don't know. Open worlds cannot be measured by size, right? Like, it's not, to borrow the old adage, of course, it's not the size that matters, it's what you do with it.
That's what she said.
Well, exactly. Yeah, right. Like, that's where it comes from. But I'm saying
one of the developers I was talking to, she was just saying that exactly. It's what you do with
exactly.
The open world that counts. Yeah.
I mean, there are some like even if we go all the way back to Daggerfall, that the world in that game was mind-blowingly open, mind-blowingly huge. Like, the biggest Elder Scrolls game was Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall in terms of map size. But every location was basically the same. Like, there were cookie cutter buildings. There were the dungeons were all different, but they were modular, so that they were, they were kind of computer generated in the sense that the computer put together different pieces, kind of like if you imagine like you have different Lego segments that can fit together in a variety of ways, but you see a variety of dungeons built out of sort of the same rooms over and over again. They're just arranged differently. That's what it was. It was a fun game, don't get me wrong. But the open world was nothing to... The only thing that open world had was its sheer size and the number of locations. Like, which were clearly all, like, the computer just... They wrote a program and let the computer run with it, right? Whereas, so and again, this was something we talked about with Cyberpunk 2077 a lot, because it's like, oh, it's going to be smaller than The Witcher's map. Well, maybe in terms of like horizontal spread, not in terms of verticality. It's probably actually going to have more floor space than The Witcher 3 had. But even if it is smaller in terms of like square footage, it's about what you put in there. And you look at, you look at gameplay from this world. It is so alive. There's so many people, so many NPCs, so many unique NPCs. You're not just seeing the same character model over and over again, like in some games. And so, yeah, it's what you do with it that matters. And so, even if, and Tara K was saying, I think it was Tara K in the chat earlier, was saying, I wonder how truly next gen this tech will be, in terms of, because it has to run on 7-year-old hardware that was weak when it came out, referring to, the Xbox One. Well, it may not be next gen in terms of graphical or processor intensity, unless they've got some some brand new way of making the program run super efficiently. That could be. But I think ultimately, like, there are things you can come up with in development that are next gen that still run within the the constrictions of current hardware. So could be that they're talking about. So we'll have to see. Again, I'm looking forward to tomorrow to see what they have to show.
Now, again, we don't really know if, like, they have said this is coming out for current gen consoles, but that may not actually happen. Like, again, this is one of the things that we know that they've said before, but they haven't guaranteed this before, and we keep saying is, like, you don't know what you're going to get until you have the confirmation of them saying, here is your thing, here is it right now, this is what we're getting, check this, like, we're shipping this is the release date. And until you have it in your hands, we don't know. They could end up pulling this back and saying, yeah, it just doesn't work on that. Or they have some really cool next-gen stuff that, turns out that is absolutely what it can run on. So again, it's like take absolutely nothing as concrete. Take everything with a grain of salt. For the moment, we don't know exactly what they're offering, what they're promising, and what is actually going to get out. Because, like I said, we've been down this, is it called the Dog and Pony Show? Or am I or am I mixing?
I'm not 100% sure, because I never say that, but I have heard it.
Okay.
I have heard that before. I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, but it's like until we have it, don't assume anything. Not on this, not so much as you can, because again, this is one of these scenarios where it's like we right now it's just rumors. It's so many rumors, and this is the most exciting thing I'm looking forward to. Not necessarily because it's Halo or Master Chief. I haven't actually played a Halo game on release in years and years and years and years. I just found my Xbox 360 Halo Master Chief Edition. Just found that while I was cleaning out some stuff on Saturday, and I was like, oh wow, that brings back memories, because it does. But I'm also
Halo was kind of a formative game for me. It's one that I used to play with Cyb a lot back in the day, the original Halo, and then Halo 2. We were big fans of Red versus Blue. So yeah, like, I haven't played a Halo game since Halo 2, but I'm definitely excited to see what they're doing with Halo Infinite. I've always loved Master Chief and the characters and the world. So we'll see it tomorrow. The Xbox Games Showcase starts tomorrow. Well, it's not in the morning if you're in Europe, but July 23rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time is when the show proper starts. 9 a.m. Pacific time, that's noon Eastern time. We will be going live an hour before that with a pre-show. Well, I will be. Cyb, unfortunately, won't be able to make it. I will be going live with a pre-show starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time. That's 11 a.m. Eastern time. And that is 5 p.m. in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. So, join us then. I'll be putting up the stream, like, I'll be setting it up to, this preview setup for the stream tonight, so you'll be able to set a reminder on that. So hope a lot of you join us. Join the Discord server voice chat if you want. I think there's going to be some people watching there, but I'll be on live with with Last Known Meal and the Neon Arcade and the Mad Queen Show, the Cyberpunk 2077 community podcast crew, and it should be a fun time.
Mm-hmm. And I may have the chance to pop in, but I kind of doubt it. This is country causing all kinds of crazy problems right now, and somebody's got to keep an eye on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Lady Reaver in the chat says, I just want the thing to move when I swing my naked character around. Out of context, I have no idea what that means, but I thought it was funny.
I absolutely know what that's referring to, and I gotta say, Lady Reaver, you have pizzazz and definitely a good style and choice. I definitely gotta say though, hula hoops, they're pretty good workout things. So yeah. Cool.
All right, speaking of Cyberpunk 2077, let's get on to that topic.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I want to start off with about the most Cyberpunk IRL picture I think I've ever seen. Modern day IRL snapshot of the world in 2020. We of course know that there's something medical going on right now that we're being advised to take some precautions about, and I don't know where this is, but somebody snapped a picture of this sign, advising people, actually saying, and it's not an advisory, it's an imperative that you must wear a face wherever you are, wherever the city is. You may not go out without your face. So yes,
Yep.
Cyberpunk, I guess, a lot closer than we were anticipating. And
Yes,
I saw this.
absolutely.
I found this on Twitter because cdpr retweeted it. I'm not even sure who posted it originally, but anyway. Obviously that's supposed to say face mask, but
oh no, I'm pretty sure. No, I'm pretty sure they meant face, because there's all the advancements of technologies, like you don't necessarily
Terra K,
have to have
that's
the
facist.
normal one.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh, you're gonna ban us over this one.
Yeah. Well, if this one doesn't get suppressed, I'll be surprised. All right, but anyway, I also wanted to talk about a piece of concept art, because this one is new to me, which actually might not be new to me. It might be collecting dust in one of my folders somewhere, but this is some Cyberpunk 2077 concept art, and this is the city region of, oh shoot, what's it called? Anyway, I'll find it in just a sec here. But the Cyberpunk 2077 account has been tweeting out concept art. Haywood, that's what it is, Haywood. And there's a couple more that they tweeted out, but I've already shown them, I'm pretty sure, in the concept art montage that we put out, if not on the podcast here. Anyway, this one was interesting to me because somebody pointed out that there's a dog in this picture, and we were kind of given the impression that there really wouldn't be pets. I'm just gonna zoom in on it here. If you take a look in the bottom center of the screen there's a very vicious looking dog. And it's either got some wicked cyberware, or it's wearing like a red bodysuit, or it's like a red dog. I don't even know. Oh, it's got like its front right arm or leg, I guess, almost looks like it might be cybernetic. I don't know. So what the hell do you think we're looking at here, Cyb? This thing is vicious. Is it a robot dog?
I don't know.
That's so
this
weird.
Is one of these things where it's like, well, I mean, it's, and I mean, I wonder if they've just been kind of messing with us now. Maybe that's not a dog at all. Maybe that's somebody who's gone for a full conversion kit.
Maybe. I think there are some people in real life who would do that if given the chance.
I like its red style though, and it's clearly got some metallic limbs, so
Yeah.
Now this is like obviously this is gonna be in the game, but
This is concept art, and who knows how old of concept art this is too.
right.
So this is not confirming that there's pets in the game. But even if there was pets in the game, and I know people want to pet pets in the game,
Now
not sure you'd want to pet that dog.
I do know that this Eat Me thing here, this little restaurant that's around the corner, that used to be an actual like real restaurant. What happens is they grow clone tissue, and then they turn it into hot dogs, and then you're basically going in and you're basically eating this like clone tissue
Of yourself?
of yourself or the chef, one of those two.
Me, I get it.
So I don't know that for sure. I'm just
That's disgusting. Burn it with fire. Burn it with fire. Get it off the screen.
remove it, right? Because that would just be, oh man, that would be so weird. It's like that. There's that one. There's a trait in Fallout where it's like you grow edible extra tissue from yourself every once in a while. It's like, well, the wonders of mutations. Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I mean, if you're eating something that came off of yourself, isn't the net energy there just zero? Yeah, wouldn't that actually cost you energy?
Have you not? Do you not know what junk food is?
What? What does that
Junk
have to?
food. You know, just.
I know
food
what
that's not
junk
good
food
for
is.
you.
Yeah.
It's got like zero, like, calories and energy.
No, but
to
I
it.
just
It's
mean
like
the energy
garbage.
required by your body to grow this whatever thing that you then pull off and eat. Like, there's no net energy gain. Never mind.
Well,
This is pointless.
this is going in a weird direction. Um, but no, like seriously, like pets were always something that they wanted to add. They just didn't have necessarily the time or the capability of adding them in the way that they wanted to. But they most certainly wanted to add it. Like it's not it's not too much to ask and work out, to get something like that. Because this is something that a lot of people enjoy. And so pets were kind of a big deal, and I'm sure if they had the chance to, they would add it, but they had to pick and choose.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You can't put everything in the game. I mean, it's going to be awesome, but it's not going to be like, this isn't going to be the game to end all games. Things are still going to progress past this. But I do think it's going to set a benchmark. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a game we play for years to come.
Yeah, and the story systems and mechanics are very interesting. And I keep saying this. This is the best potential that this game has. We may disagree on like one or two things, and I got into a disagreement again this week with some peeps, and it's like, again, it's like I'm not saying that this thing's going to be perfect, but I'm also not saying that it's going to be terrible. Like, this is going to be a very, very good game. They are basically competing with themselves at this point. Like, really, there's a bunch of games that came out. There were a lot of issues with Fallout 4. As much as we love Fallout 4, there were a lot of issues with it. And there were lots of, like, lore issues and things that we kind of wish were improved and tweaked and altered and made to be better. But, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. But let's get on to our quote from Pavel Sasko today. This is something we came across. This is from was reported by WCCF Tech. Haven't seen it reported by any of the usual suspects yet. Mm-hmm. We'll see if the likes of Kotaku or Polygon decide to cover this quote and what they have to say about it. Very curious what they think about it. I feel like if they do cover it, they won't cover it in a positive light. It'll be another reason to worry about how CDPR is going to handle certain delicate topics and blah, 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 gamers toxic. But anyway, WCCF Tech just basically the entire, like 80% of the quote-unquote article is Pavo's quote. And there's like 2 paragraphs of commentary written. But anyway, let's establish the context of this, because you just see the like you see a small segment of the quote on the art today, on the podcast artwork today. But the context is that the Polish website Spider's Web asked Paweł Sasko, who is a quest designer for Cyberpunk 2077, they asked him whether specifically the Black Lives Matter movement fosters any changes at all in the upcoming game, chiefly in its quests. So that was the context for this quote. He was being asked about current events. He was being asked about the stuff that's going on in the United States. That's all big news that we don't need to delve into here because you all know what's going on. Now, the answer was in Polish, but here it is translated. So he makes two basic points. One is that the game is pretty much done, so there's like no way to change it even if they wanted to. He said, we already have a recorded game, actually for a long time. This is the last stage in which we do not change anything in the story we are telling, add nothing or remove anything. These events, as you noticed yourself, took place very recently. So that's his first response. And of course, I mean, the game was already supposed to be out by now originally, according to their original release date. So anyway, I don't know how much this Spider's Web website knows about video games, but that's kind of a silly question. If there are like a games journalism site, I don't even know, but if they know anything about games, it's kind of a silly question to ask at this point of development. Like, no, of course we're not gonna. What are they gonna do? The game is done. They're in the polishing phase. It's like, I know your movie is supposed to come out in 2 weeks, but we want you to add in another character. I think you can do that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, add it to all the existing scenes and tie it in. Again, I don't like this. Isn't the same universe. It's like asking people to, write a story based off of current day politics and add it into Lord of the Rings. It's like, yes, in some cases, you can have certain things and points be made and issues be raised. And actually, speaking of Lord of the Rings, Tolkien was very much a forester, somebody who enjoyed the forest. And he was, in his time, he was shocked and appalled by the amount of devastation that was being brought upon the forests. And there were this was back before most companies even did any kind of like tree planting. And so there was these companies that would come in, they would clear an entire forest on the side of a mountain, and then 5 or 6 years later, rain would come, saturate the soil, there was no roots or anything holding it up, and then you'd have these massive landslides that were killing people. And he went out of his way to include the Ents into his book because he didn't, he was against this kind of stuff, and he was taking his stance for that. So yes, of course, things like that get into a thing, but he didn't call out a specific particular event.
Right. I don't know that that's necessarily.
Yeah, and that's but it's the question and the way that they phrased it that's like, well, why aren't you? And that's the kind of thing. It's like they have, of course they have their morals. Of course they have their, everybody's worried about, anybody being treated poorly or unjustly. Like that's one of the worst things you can do to a person is give them the inability to have justice seen, either by preventing it or limiting their ability to have justice. But it's the way that they phrased it, which was very disingenuous and was very insulting.
I haven't actually read the actual phrasing of the question. I only have his response to it here. Do you happen to know what the exact wording was?
No, I didn't. I don't remember the exact wording, but when I read it, I was a little annoyed because it's clear that they were trying to shoot for something, and it's like nobody disagrees with this. It's just, well, I mean, not anybody sane, but it's just like why forcibly include it?
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense and it doesn't treat the issue with the respect that it deserves to ham-fist something in.
Well, and this kind of he gets at this in his second point. So he's Pavos, he goes on to say, the second point is, for us, Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher are games that show our philosophy as a studio. The game we are working on is an entertainment medium to a large extent, but for us it is also an art, a work that shows our vision. It is difficult for me to imagine the events that would have to happen for us to suddenly find that we are changing or moving something in order not to touch any specific elements. Anyway, I think you saw elements in the game that touch it, so you could find out for yourself. For me, the most important thing is that our game is not a political statement, a political thesis. For me and my team, Cyberpunk 2077 is a work of art, and I always stick to it. I always say it to my designers. I just want to pause there for a second, because he actually makes a couple of interesting points there. One is that he's saying that the game does touch on these racial themes. And I'm sure we're going to see that. I am sure, you've got a whole bunch of different ethnicities and cultures living together in this dystopian future city. I'm sure at some point we're going to encounter some racial tensions. I'm sure that's something the game touches on. But he's saying the game is not a political statement. And I want to address what that actually means, because the first response from a lot of people to that is, well, Cyberpunk is inherently political. Okay, yes, but what do you mean by politics? And this is something that drives me crazy about discourse in 2020 and in the past few years. Nobody defines their terms. Nobody listens to each other. Everybody just sits on Twitter and yells at each other, and nobody...
And terms are... It's the biggest thing that you pointed out is that, terms are fluid.
Well, yeah, they can mean a million different things.
Definitions are fluid. It's like, well, did you mean this or did you mean that? And it's like, well, no, I meant something different. Or, I meant the traditional translation of the actual core word. And it's like, and I've gotten into spats recently with this. I'm very analytical, and I'm like I look at language and I go, this is what this word definition means. And then I'm informed by somebody that that word has changed. Like, how much has it changed? Because it used to mean, this, like something very, very, very specific. I think I said that word wrong again. And it's like, no, now it means something completely different. It's like,
yeah,
I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get into it, and it's not what most people think.
And I understand, like, words take on different meanings depending on context.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just have different meanings, like related meanings, but different meanings.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm the, like, I feel if a word has lost its meaning or is being used in the way that it was not actually originally meant to be, it's like, don't let that happen. Like somebody runs up and calls you, hey, you apple. Yeah, you're apple. You're round, and I don't like your face, so I'm calling you an apple because I don't like you stupid apple. It's like, you don't go out of your way to be like, oh, I guess I'm never eating an apple again, and I'm gonna make sure that nobody else eats an apple again. I know it's a silly thing, but this is literally this is literally how close to it was. It's like somebody used a word as an insult, therefore the word can never ever have its actual meaning again.
That is
like,
that is something that is happening.
Aren't we just surrendering to the, to people left, right, and center? I mean, what about people whose names actually are Joe is suddenly an insult. So all Joeys, for the girls or guys named Joey, suddenly they have to have a name change. Like, I don't understand this. This boggles my mind as an autistic. It boggles my mind as like somebody who's big into logic. It's like, I don't understand how we can just surrender terms and words to people who are jerks.
Yeah.
Who are actively trying to hurt something or ruin something. It's like, no, this is what this word means, period. If you're misusing it, that's on you. And I'm going to call you a dumbass and a jerk for going out of your way to try and ruin somebody's day or life or whatever. It's like, this is unacceptable.
There are cases where words just naturally evolve in their meaning.
Yes, but I mean that takes a considerable effort and a considerable motion by the public at large. This isn't the public at large thing. This particular example. This wasn't a public at large thing. This is a microfraction of a microfraction.
Yeah, no,
And
I get what you're saying there. I get what you're saying. Yeah, there's certain cases where these kinds of things are forced because a certain person or group of people don't like the way a certain word is used or something, and so it can never mean that again. I was repairing. You know what? I was doing some home repairs. I was repairing my toilet this week. Did you know there's a part of the toilet that's called the ball cock? Clearly, this predates any modern slang. So yeah, I didn't actually. My toilet doesn't have one. I guess it's been castrated. But yeah, I replaced that part with a completely different part a while back. But it's like, yeah, disconnect the flow to the ball cock. I'm like, okay then, all right. Slowly backing away. All right, but anyway, Ren Sten with the super chat. Thank you so much. Ren Sten says, remember folks, Mike Pondsmith made Cyberpunk but never preached politics to you. CDPR took that to heart. Make of that as you will. You're absolutely correct. And here's where we get to what we're talking about when we say politics. Politics can be, it can mean like, oh, who are you voting for? It can also mean, general power. I was really thinking hard about it today because I've struggled with understanding what the word politics actually means. And the best definition I can come up with, the most general definition I can come up with after reading a whole bunch of definitions online today, I think it comes down to two things. It comes down to rules and it comes down to resources. Who makes the rules and how are the resources distributed? Whether that's nationally, whether that's within like a company or an organization. The politics is about power, the power to make the rules, and the power to dictate how the resources get distributed. So that can be a government, but it can also be other things. So whenever you address those general themes, you're addressing politics. And yes, from that perspective, Cyberpunk is full of politics, as are many game worlds, many fictional worlds. Star Trek has political themes. Actually, I was just watching an episode of Deep Space Nine yesterday or today, where Jake, the station commander's son, he's got a young Ferengi friend, and they go on a double date with some girls who come to the station. And
he passed away this last year.
Who did?
Great actor, the guy who played Nog.
Oh, really? That sucks.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, it was really sad. I wanted to try and do a little call out for it, but yeah, unfortunately he passed away. He's a great actor too. He's a really great actor.
Yeah, he does really.
But he was a very passionate, very funny, very skilled actor.
Yeah.
Credit to his craft.
Anyway, so yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. Like, he was gone for a while. I'm glad they've kind of brought him back in the episodes I'm watching. But so they go on this double date, and in Ferengi culture, women are subjugated and basically just treated as servants or worse. They're they're not allowed to wear clothes, etc., etc. Like, it's
can't own property.
It's a horribly bad, and they've addressed this a number of times on the show, and of course it's never like, the show never preaches at you. Like, it makes your average viewer uncomfortable. It's like, oh, you treat women that way, that's disgusting. But usually the show addresses like, well, even though we disagree with that, like the humans in Starfleet, they're like, we have to respect their culture. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's like, that seems so wrong, and I would say it is so wrong that you subjugate a gender like that. But within the complexities of a show about a bunch of spacefaring cultures all trying to coexist, it had nuance to it, and that's I think what's lacking from political discourse today, is that Nobody listens to if you sit down and actually listen to somebody's perspective, that doesn't mean you're agreeing with them. Right? It just means you're taking the time to try and understand why you disagree with them. And this drives me crazy when people won't do that. And they're like, no, we shouldn't listen to these people. Oh, really? You want to be ignorant of their views, do you? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. And so, yeah, there's going to be political themes in the game, for sure. But they're not going to try and take real-world politics.
Because there's nothing that makes a game so essential to the history of playing video games when you add in a ton of extra pointless political jargon that's only relevant in its day. Like when I mean this as in like a general broad sweeping term for politics in general. Like I'm talking like, parties and voting for this person, that person, or that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about any particular issue of today. I'm talking about like in general. When you add in like that kind of traditional type of politics stuff into games, it's like oftentimes that loses people after like just 3 years. Like 3 years is a long time in the world of politics, especially in the world of like American politics. 3 years is not that long in other political systems, but it's like if you're going to talk about X party or B party or A party, and you're popping in some like political discourse about this subject, that subject, this subject that's relevant to that day, it's like that typically doesn't age well. Like it typically just doesn't. Because if you want to get a point across, you can make the point and then have the point live through the example. But when you're trying to like push like this, that, and the other thing, it's like,
yeah. That's that's so very true too. You make it more timeless if you separate it from reality and kind of address it in the fictional context. Like there's some historical stuff that's kind of timeless, like the Prey was like an alternate history game where like JFK didn't get assassinated, and so there's like portraits of Kennedy around the station. That's one thing where it's like a famous historical figure that everybody knows about. But when it comes to that, what was the show I was watching the other day? I watched show that
it's and that's a good thing to point out, because as we all know, when JFK assassinated Lee Harvey Oswald, it was like it was the big thing that happened, right?
Yes. So I can't remember what
you have to carry through. You have to carry through with that. You have to point out the incorrection there.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll bite. What do you mean? Wasn't it the other way around?
That's what they want you to think.
Okay, gotcha. I can't remember the example I was thinking of, but I did come up with another one. Like, you go and watch the Shrek movies now. They are so dated because it's just constant references to modern, the pop culture that was popular at the time. Now, you watch them and you're like, this is like, if you remember all that stuff, then these jokes are funny, but if not, like it doesn't stand on its own. Yeah. So if I were to show those to my kids, like they wouldn't get it. They just wouldn't get it. So yeah, good point about the timelessness of it.
And again, it's like I wasn't speaking as to a particular issue. I'm speaking just in a general term of like adding more microcosm politics to things, because of course there are some things that are timeless, and and those are obviously important, but you have to add those in an understandable way, or you'll lose the audience if you're relying on just like, it's like, make sure you vote yes on Prop 47. It's like,
you've got to make it
where I saw a movie once. I can't remember which one it is, and this speaks to obviously this speaks to the problem that they encountered. But it was like, make sure you vote for Prop 50. And it was like, I looked it up, and it was like, back in the day, everybody thought that this was like the end all be all of like some major thing in their local state that would end up having this ripple consequence that would reverberate through the entire country and then the world. And you found out later on, and it's like, no, it never did. Like, nobody cared about it. You know, a year later, nobody gave a crap about it, because that's just the way that it works. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was just like it kind of fell on its face, and because of that, you know, you lose sight of the humor, and the thing doesn't make sense, and it just gets boring, and then you move on.
Right.
So,
all right. Not sure there's much more to say about that, other than I certainly, from my own perspective, appreciate the focus on art as opposed to making a political statement.
yeah.
I do want complex themes. I do want to be presented with some moral dilemmas, especially when it comes down to things that are going to affect the world. But
And again, and I'll point this out again. I support forestry, reforestry, and trying to plant trees in places where, you know, they should. I really support things like moving some ancient oaks and redwoods and stuff like that into as many different places as you can. I'm against just the weed trees because of what I read, and then the advanced study that I did because of reading the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion and all that. It's like it was because of those books that inspired me to like go out of my way and find the truth of the matter, so to speak. It's like
well, it painted a picture for you, right? Mm-hmm. It painted a picture of the ugliness of, you know, what Saruman was doing with ripping down the forests for industry. Mm. It really paints a picture. It got you thinking. If you can get somebody to come to a conclusion on their own, mm-hmm. that's the most powerful way to convince them of something. Like, you're going to have a hard time. Yeah. You're going to have a hard time changing their mind again, because, you know, they took the info, they integrated it, they processed it, and they changed their own mind.
And again, in just in the general like concept, I go out of my way in my own book to try and talk to people on that level of like making both arguments, because like I don't think you do well when you don't fairly or try to point out what the opposition side, or what the two sides of the argument is. Most people don't do that in their writing, unfortunately, and you get a lot of this like, oh well, you know, this is bad. It's like, no, try to like put it from their angle, try to like have them see it, and then have them debate it. The main character and another character. It's like I have a whole chapter that's devoted to like, actually I have more than one chapter now. I think I've got about 3 that are the majority of it is propped up and positioned around the concept of the of a verbal fight between people with differing ideas, and in the morality that most people would have reading it, they can see one way, or they have a preference for one way, but then the arguments come in, and it's like, that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to elicit thought on this. You're not trying to necessarily preach to the choir. You're trying to elicit thought on this in one way or another, and I hope I'm doing that well. Time being could probably attest to how well I'm doing at that. But that's my primary goal, is to make people think and come up with that from that perspective. Yeah.
All right, got to move on here. You are listening to the Augmented Reality podcast, and one more story before we have to wrap up here today. But we do appreciate the awesome conversation in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. As I mentioned earlier, it's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members, the Triple S Legion they've taken to calling themselves, about all the things we love to talk about. Stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. We got some fun things coming over the next little while. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. All right, so our last story of the day, not a fun topic, but there's a report that's come out in the EU requested by the IMCO Committee of the European Parliament. I don't actually know what the IMCO Committee is, but it's right beside the European Parliament insignia, so it's an EU thing. Maybe someone in Europe can let us know what that is. But this report is called Loot Boxes in Online Games and Their Effect on Consumers, in particular young consumers. This is a thorough, very in-depth study that was done by, and it...
This is a study that's been piggybacking essentially off of the British study that we covered a little while ago, where they're like, yeah, we've looked at this, we've looked at what microtransactions, specifically like loot box microtransactions do, and this is horrifying. It needs to stop now. Period. Mm-hmm. No ifs, ands, or buts. This has got to stop ASAP right now. This is unacceptable. Absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of like fielding up from that.
Right.
And yeah.
Now, Cyb and I, of course, are of the opinion that loot boxes in general are bad, and that creating games that have addictive properties, that are designed to get you addicted and hooked to spend money on microtransactions is just a bad thing. It's not.
Yeah, I once heard a school counselor put it this way: drugs are bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but
yeah.
That said, like we've been talking for years now about how we've seen, governments are starting to take interest in this issue. Because
I warned ages ago
that
if these companies didn't get their crap together and the players in general didn't start to full-on revolt of this stuff, yet that at some point we were going to have this really bad, terrible, nightmarish scenario where games will start to be choreographed and run and cycled through by governments.
Basically government regulated. And we are starting to see that now, and it's going beyond loot boxes. If we look at this study, we're just seeing hints of it, but they delved past the specific issue of loot boxes to basically what is the problematic designs, what are the things that underlie these problems, or this particular mechanic of loot boxes. And this is where it starts to get a little bit concerning, because do we want government approval and regulation regarding game design now? Like this this study, it references problematic game design several times, and I'm going to read a section of it here that's entitled Recommendations for Further Action and Conclusions. And it says this: as a result, it appears that consumer protection should be focused on problematic game designs more broadly rather than focusing too narrowly on loot boxes. Since gambling is a national competence of the member states, approaching the issue from this angle may lead to a fragmented market for video games within the EU. Then they kind of explain what that means. Like, each country in Europe makes their own gambling laws, and therefore, the same game can't be sold to every market in the EU, and they want to have a unified market. So then they go on and say it is therefore recommended to tackle problematic game designs from a wider consumer protection perspective. In this domain, the European Union has the discretion to act through a broad range of means, ranging from non-binding recommendations to mandatory legislation. The effectiveness of existing initiatives, for example, the provision of information about video game content and purchase systems to consumers, making parental control tools available and accessible, and raising awareness among players about problematic game design should be verified, etc., etc. So, based on such an assessment, the European Union could take steps to complement and strengthen the protection of young players. So, this is what you're gonna get, you frickin' AAA and Triple B publishers and studios. This is what you're gonna get.
And many of them have thought for a long time, oh, well, this is fine because we'll be on the inside. No, 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 no. No, no. Your job is going to be replaced by a government bureaucrat. And then all entertainment in video games are going to be legislated to be, approved, approved state-created content only.
Yeah.
Which means you're gonna have imagine the worst thing that you could imagine. EA deciding and regulating and being the people that are in charge of all of your video games, and you playing another video game happens to be illegal. This is what happens. I mean, this is what happened with alcohol. You can't make your own moonshine. In most places, moonshine is illegal. And this is just, again, this is why you don't mess with this. This is why you don't let government get in control of this stuff. This is why, and we need the regulation, and we need governments to, have enough cojones to move in and say, no, sorry, we are not giving you the right or the ability to do whatever you want with these, with your games. You're not going to market it to children. You're not going to say, hey, kids, look at this beautiful thing called tobacco. Isn't it amazing? Hey, why don't you smoke 20 packs in a day? And it's like, I know I went a little bit of an exaggeration on that. But still, it's like, it's like you're going to get a controlled network that doesn't allow for innovation. And this is probably the most dangerous thing to the video game space, period. Well, is having a scenario where innovation is replaced with government mandate.
And where does it go from here? Problematic game design. That's such a broad term, a broad phrase. What if they decide violence and gore in games is problematic design? What if they decide too much screen time is problematic, and they decide to regulate that for your average citizen? Like how much time you can spend playing video games or just on screens in general. Like, is this a slippery slope? Yes, but we are literally seeing this happen in China. So let's not make the mistake of saying this couldn't happen anywhere else in the world. So yeah, thanks a lot, EA and all you others. You've awoken the sleeping giant. Government bureaucrats who probably never played a video game in their lives.
And you can tell what happened, right? These government bureaucrats were sitting around going, "Hey, we've got a lot of complaints about like these companies like being predatory against children and making tons and tons of money off of kids." So what did they do? They got this after years of people complaining about this. They finally arranged a group to study it. And what was the thing that they discovered? Like out of curiosity, what was the thing that they discovered and went, "Oh wow, look at this! Isn't this so very interesting? It makes a ton of money." And what's the first thing that they suggest? We really should be controlling this and making all the decisions based off of this. Like that's immediately where they went. Eek.
And those bells mean it's time to end the podcast. So, yeah. Hopefully it's not ending on too sour of a note for all of you, but this is an important thing that we need to be aware of. And I think also, it's one thing to sit around and criticize these the game companies, but we also have to look at ourselves and say, are we contributing to this? Like, I can sit around and criticize the loot box system, but am I partaking in it? Am I buying stuff in games? If so, the more, each of us that does that, we support that system. And so I think it's important to examine our behavior as well. But anyway, all of that aside, thank you so much for joining us today for the Augmented Reality Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for the great conversation in the chat, for supporting the show by listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. We really appreciate that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Notifications sometimes work, apparently. And comment below if you're listening after the fact. All of that shows YouTube that you care about this content and increases the likelihood that it'll show it to somebody else. But if you want to share it to your friends and communities, we'd appreciate that as well. Very, very much. And I also want to extend a special thanks to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who helped to make this content possible. Our big damn heroes on Patreon: Robin, Shua82, Time Bean, Schoolaman, Lady Reaver, and our 2 anonymous supporters at that tier. Thank you so very much. Our channel members on YouTube: Mr. Pazdernick, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, Terror K, and Somnolence. Really appreciate all of you. You help us more than you're probably aware. So thank you so much. Don't forget, if you're listening after the fact, you can join the live show on YouTube on Wednesdays and Saturdays, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the discussion. Oh, and don't forget, tomorrow, live coverage of the Xbox Games Showcase right here on the Triple S League YouTube channel. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cyber, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.